Most men spend their lives confused, chasing love, validation, and happiness from women, only to end up heartbroken, used, or trapped. But 200 years ago, a philosopher named Arthur Schopenhauer exposed the raw truth about female nature truths, so brutal and confronting that most men still refuse to accept them. By the end of this, you'll see exactly where you've been deceived and how to finally take back control. So, pay attention, because what you're about to hear isn't just controversial. It's the missing key most men will never grasp. Schopenhauer didn't believe in fairy tales. He wasn't seduced by romantic illusions or the cultural myths of soulmates and eternal love. Instead, he saw love for what it truly is. Not a sacred bond, not destiny's design, but a biological trick. A clever mechanism created by nature with a single, unyielding purpose: reproduction. Here's the uncomfortable truth. That electric spark, the overwhelming desire, the illusion that you've finally found the one. Your brain isn't forming a mystical connection, it's calculating. Deep beneath your awareness, it's scanning her for fertility signals, evaluating genetic compatibility, weighing survival advantages. It feels magical, but it's math. Women experience attraction the same way, though their subconscious priorities differ. They aren't drawn by poetry, but by what secures their future. Schopenhauer once wrote, "Love is the ultimate goal of almost all human effort. It is more important than anything else in life." But he didn't celebrate that. He exposed it. What he meant was that love is a snare, a fleeting chemical high that exists only long enough to fulfill nature's purpose, then vanishes like smoke. Ask yourself, how many men have burned their lives to the ground for a woman who later left without a second glance? How many marriages wither once the initial passion fades? These aren't tragic coincidences, they are nature's strategy. Women don't choose partners based on fairness, loyalty, or logic. Their instincts drive them to seek out status, security, and strong genetics. And if a man can't provide those, his devotion alone becomes meaningless. Schopenhauer saw this with ruthless clarity. Women are not primarily guided by reason. They are more often than not ruled by instinct and emotion. This isn't hatred, it's recognition. Just look around. Dating apps show it clearly. 80% of women chase the top 20% of men. Divorce courts are littered with cases where commitment is punished with financial ruin. Throughout history, powerful men died for women who betrayed them. The names change, but the pattern remains because the biology never evolved. Most men are misled into thinking love is mutual, that if they give enough, try enough, sacrifice enough, they'll eventually be rewarded. But Schopenhauer warned clearly, to be loved, one must not be just, but clever. Women are not captivated by kindness, they are compelled by strength. And not just strength of muscle, but of social influence, financial stability, and inner dominance. This is why the nice guy finishes last, not because he's lacking, but because he's misreading the rules. Plays the game of love with loyalty and service, hoping for reciprocity. But women, by their ancient design, gravitate toward the man who doesn't need to try, the one who already commands value. They fall for strength, not supplication. Most men spend their lives confused, chasing love, validation, and happiness from women, only to end up heartbroken, used, or trapped. But 200 years ago, a philosopher named Arthur Schopenhauer exposed the raw truth about female nature. Ever noticed how women lose interest once they've secured a man? How the dynamic shifts, how the chase reverses. That electric tension from the beginning, the excitement, the mystery, suddenly begins to fade. Schopenhauer called this the tragedy of possession. The thrill, he argued, isn't in having it. In conquering, desire peaks in pursuit, not in permanence. Once the conquest is complete, biology, with ruthless indifference, moves on to the next imperative. This is why men who cling too tightly, who smother their partners, who make a woman the absolute center of their existence, often end up watching her grow cold and distant. Not because she is cruel, but because the instinctual excitement has vanished. And here lies the deeper truth. This isn't a moral failing. It isn't women's fault. It's nature's playbook. But the man who understands this, he stops pointing fingers. He stops sulking and starts thinking. He stops blaming and begins strategizing. Schopenhauer's lesson wasn't a call to resentment, it was a call to awareness. He didn't preach bitterness, he urged clarity. To see women not through the lens of fantasy, but through the lens of biology. Love, according to Schopenhauer, is not a magical union written in the stars. It is a negotiation, a high-stakes trade governed by power, value, and leverage. Make no mistake, the man who enters that negotiation from a place of weakness, neediness, or blind romanticism loses every time. But as harsh as this may sound, it's only the beginning. Because what comes next? It's even darker. It pulls back the curtain on modern relationships and reveals exactly why men today are being outplayed in every arena, emotionally, sexually, and socially. Most men will never see it. But the ones who do, they finally begin to take their power back. Stick around, because what comes next is where most men realize they've been lied to their entire lives. Schopenhauer saw what most men today still refuse to admit: the rules of attraction aren't fair, they aren't logical, and they certainly aren't in your favor. While modern society chants slogans of equality and fairness, biology quietly continues operating by an entirely different set of laws and chant. Primal and unchanging, and the man who ignores those laws, he's already lost the game before it even began. Here's the brutal reality. Women hold the ultimate leverage in relationships, not because they're manipulative or malicious, but because nature has appointed them the gatekeepers. From the moment puberty arrives, a woman's value in the sexual marketplace spikes. Her beauty, her youth, her fertility, these are her assets, and they mature early. In contrast, a man's value must be built slowly, through hardship, through trial, through acquiring status, strength, and survival skills. Schopenhauer put it bluntly: women are suited to being the nurses and teachers of our childhood by the very fact that they themselves are childish, frivolous, and short-sighted. Was he mocking them? No, he was stating a brutal evolutionary observation. Woman's youthful beauty is her biological currency, and she instinctively knows how to spend it. And look around you. The modern man is caught in a cruel paradox. He's told to open up emotionally, yet women still chase dominance. He's told to suppress traditional masculinity, yet the confident, commanding alpha males still dominate every dating platform. He sacrifices his energy and health in a system that often repays him with broken homes, custody battles, and court-ordered alimony. Schopenhauer warned of this long before Tinder or TikTok. Women are directly fitted for acting as the nurses and teachers of childhood by the fact that they are themselves childish, frivolous, and short-sighted. In essence, they remain large children for life. But now, things have taken a more dangerous turn. Modern women haven't just embraced their evolutionary leverage, they've learned to weaponize it. As social media has transformed attention into a currency and the average man, he's become the unpaid laborer in this new economy. He simps. He scrolls. He orbits hoping, waiting, giving, getting nothing in return. Ever noticed how women lose interest once they've secured a man? How the chase reverses? Schopenhauer called it the tragedy of possession. He competes for scraps of validation from women who will never commit to him. Why? Because he's been sold a lie, a carefully constructed illusion that devotion alone is enough. That being kind, loyal, and supportive will win her heart. But Schopenhauer saw through this trap long before dating apps, admire me culture, and social media made it a global epidemic. He exposed what most men still struggle to admit. Women, by nature and conditioning, are systematically trained to be incapable of genuine, unconditional love. Now, that may sound brutal, almost unfair, till you understand what Schopenhauer truly meant. Female love is not rooted in selfless emotion. It's conditional, transactional, and tightly linked to utility. A woman doesn't fall in love with a man for who he is deep down, but for what he does, what he offers, and what he represents. The moment he stops producing value, emotionally, financially, or socially the illusion of love dissolves. It's not out of cruelty, but out of instinct. This isn't bitterness. This isn't cynicism. It's biology. It's survival. Women are hardwired to seek the highest value made available. If a man stagnates, even briefly, she doesn't just grow distant. She resents him. If he falls behind, fails to grow, or loses status, she doesn't wait around. She replaces him. In today's society, it not only accepts this behavior, it celebrates it. The modern narrative applauds her for leveling up and leaving behind the man who no longer matches her ambition or standards. Schopenhauer made it chillingly clear. He divided men into two categories: those who serve and those who are served. The beta male works tirelessly to earn love, desperate to prove his worth. The alpha doesn't ask for approval. He commands it. He doesn't chase loyalty. He becomes the kind of man who makes loyalty irresistible. One pleads for attention. The other attracts it like gravity. And you can see this dynamic playing out. All around us, it's the office worker, slowly destroying his health, chasing that next promotion in hopes it'll reignite respect in his wife's eyes. The gym rat, carving out muscle and definition, only to find that women desire him but only for casual sex, not for lasting connection. Or the simp who blindly empties his bank account for a woman who vanishes the second a man of higher status enters the room. These men aren't victims of some cruel fate. They're volunteers in their own downfall. But Schopenhauer didn't just point out the problem. He offered the first step toward the solution. See the world as it is, not as you wish it to be. The man who thrives in the modern age is not the one who clings to outdated notions of romance or naive ideas about fairness. It's the one who understands that life, especially love, operates by different rules, written in instinct, not fantasy. And here comes the hardest truth of all. The game is rigged, but only if you're playing by the wrong rules. Is where most men falter. Because what follows next is the most uncomfortable realization yet. It's not about women. It never was. It's about you. In the moment you stop looking outward for blame and turn inward for answers, everything begins to shift. Schopenhauer uncovered something modern psychology has since confirmed. Women don't compete the way men do. They don't engage in direct confrontation. They don't flex power in ways you can easily recognize. Their most devastating weapon. It's not force. It's not logic. It's emotional influence. Subtle, invisible, precise. While men fight with fists, dominance, or reason, women reshape perception itself. They don't conquer territory. They alter reality. And often you never even notice it happening. Consider the difference. When a man wants something, he asserts himself. He makes demands. He pushes forward. When a woman wants something, she makes you believe it was your idea all along. Schopenhauer observed this dynamic long before it became part of everyday relationships. He wrote that women are adapted to a sedentary life by their lack of physical strength, and to the care of children by their natural inclination. Because of this, they are more rooted in the present moment than men. But what seems like a limitation at first glance becomes a powerful tool. This present moment focus allows them to read social cues, shift narratives, and manipulate perception with astonishing skill. And that gives them a dangerous advantage. He competes for scraps of validation from women who will never commit to him. Why? Because he's been sold a lie, ... They read micro-expressions, tone shifts, and social dynamics with near supernatural accuracy. While a man thinks he's engaging in a casual conversation, what's really happening is something far more calculated. A woman, often without even realizing it herself, is conducting an emotional interrogation. One filled with subtle tests and unspoken cues. Modern men walk into relationships believing they're in control, that they're leading, that they're the decision makers. But they couldn't be more mistaken. From the first moment of interaction to the final goodbye, it is often women who navigate and steer the dynamic. Not overtly, not forcefully, but through precision and instinct. They guide with nuance. It's through a series of social and emotional tests that most men don't even recognize are happening. The compliance test. How easily you cancel your plans for her. The frame test, do you hold your own beliefs or bend to? Please her emotions? The investment test, are you giving more? Chasing harder? Sacrificing first? Schopenhauer warned us long ago, women are instinctively crafty. They don't rely on brute strength. They rely on psychological mastery. This isn't malevolent, it's biological. In a world where women historically couldn't outmuscle their way to safety, they evolved emotional intelligence as a survival mechanism. The woman who failed to understand male behavior didn't reproduce. The one who could manipulate expectations, however subtly, passed her genes forward. And this is exactly where the modern man stumbles. Blindly, he mistakes a woman's fleeting attention for genuine emotional connection. But Schopenhauer exposed the uncomfortable truth: women are most attracted to men who don't need them. The less you chase, the more they follow. The moment a man places a woman at the center of his universe, makes her his mission, he triggers a biological reaction. Her respect fades, her desire diminishes, her instincts warn her, this man depends on me. Here independency erodes dominance. This truth underlies why so many nice guys finish last. Why passionate relationships disintegrate after men abandon their purpose. Why women are magnetically drawn to emotionally unavailable men, not because they crave pain, but because distance signals strength. And nothing is more repelling, too. A woman's instinct than a man consumed by neediness. Every interaction with a woman, whether romantic, platonic, or professional, carries an invisible undercurrent. A silent contest for power. And tragically, most men lose this battle before they even realize it's begun. She may cry, not out of sadness, but to avoid taking responsibility. She may withhold affection, not due to emotional fatigue, but to condition your behavior. She may flirt with other men not because she's disloyal, but to provoke insecurity and test your confidence. Schopenhauer called this the tyranny of the weak, where apparent vulnerability is wielded like a weapon, where softness becomes strategy. A woman may appear helpless, but through emotional manipulation, she controls those far stronger than herself. The man who falls for this illusion, he becomes a pawn in a game he doesn't understand. But the man who sees it for what it is, who identifies the silent tactics at play, he becomes untouchable. There's hope in this revelation. Schopenhauer's most liberating insight was simple yet profound. The first step to freedom is seeing the chains. Once you realize that female behavior isn't malicious, instinctually you stop reacting, you stop personalizing, you stop begging for loyalty, and instead, you begin inspiring it. Because here's the final lesson, the harshest truth of all. The most dangerous lies are not the ones women tell men. They're the ones men whisper to themselves. That love is unconditional. That effort guarantees affection. That validation from a woman equals success as a man. But Schopenhauer's most devastating discovery wasn't about women at all. It was about the cold, unbending structure of human nature itself. After dismantling every comforting illusion about attraction and control, he didn't leave men in despair. He offered something infinitely more powerful, the path to liberation. This isn't about defeating women. It's not a war. It's about transcending the game, entirely seeing beyond it. Because modern men continue to make the same fatal mistake. They believe that happiness comes from female validation. Schopenhauer saw through this illusion. The happiness which we receive from ourselves is greater than that which we obtain from our surroundings. In a world endlessly chasing external validation, this truth hits like a thunderclap. Real happiness, lasting, quiet, unshakable, doesn't come from being chosen by a woman. It comes from choosing yourself. The men who thrive aren't those who conquer women, but those who conquer themselves. They aren't enslaved by lust or consumed by rejection. Instead, they cultivate a purpose so magnetic, so internally fulfilling, that female attention becomes exactly what it should be, a pleasant byproduct, not a desperate pursuit. They don't chase women because they're too busy chasing excellence. Think of the men who shaped history. The artists who changed minds. The inventors who reshaped civilization. The warriors who rewrote borders. Were they distracted by fleeting infatuations? No, they were too busy building empires. From this truth arise the three pillars of unshakable masculinity. 1. Economic sovereignty. Schopenhauer warned that money is human happiness in the abstract, not because of the things it buys, but because of the autonomy it secures. The man who commands his finances doesn't just buy freedom, he buys peace. When you're not dependent, you're not controllable. The ability to walk away is the ultimate power, and only men with financial independence truly possess it. 2. Philosophical depth. Most men drift through life on autopilotry, acting, consuming, conforming. But the exceptional man refuses this path. He sharpens his mind like a blade. He questions everything: culture, relationships, himself. He reads not for entertainment, but for liberation. He debates not to be right, but to discover what is true. He doesn't parrot beliefs. He forms them. 3. Physical mastery. The body is not merely a tool for aesthetics. It is the physical reflection of discipline, willpower, and control. A weak body is not just a liability, it's a symbol of chaos. Strength radiates. It commands attention not because of size, but because of what it represents: command over self. Mastery of the body bleeds into mastery over emotion, decision, and direction. And here's where Schopenhauer's wisdom becomes revolutionary. The safest way of not being very miserable is not to expect to be very happy. First glance, it sounds cold, but it's not despair. It's armor. It's realism. When a man stops expecting the world to be fair, love to be unconditional, or life to reward weakness, he becomes unbreakable. Ironically, it is this detachment that brings him the very things he once begged for: respect, love, peace. Why? Because he's no longer among the desperate. He no longer tries to prove his worth to people who don't deserve it. It's become the prize. The battle between men and women isn't personal. It never was. It's a biological theater, playing out over thousands of years, shaped by instinct more than intention. The man who finally wakes up to this reality, he stops blaming. He stops resenting. He starts evolving. He doesn't rage against female nature. He adapts to it. He doesn't demand love. He earns it. He builds a life so compelling, so self-defined, that women either rise to meet his standards or are left behind, watching from the sidelines. Schopenhauer's ultimate lesson? We forfeit 3/4 of ourselves in order to be like other people. And that's the real tragedy. Most men never live. They perform. They shrink to fit expectations. But you have a choice. Continue chasing illusions, or step into your true power. The red pill isn't about hating women. It never was. It's about loving truth so deeply that you're willing to rebuild yourself, brick by painful brick, in its image. This is where your real life begins.